It's been so long since I initially mentioned this project, I'm actually going to have to do some backstory for all the new people. This cage behind me is a 3-tier DIY cage that I built about 2 years ago, I think. We named it the test tube to fit in with our theme of sciencey named rodent-related stuff, and it was originally home to my mouse Zinc in the top level, my hamster Sulfur in the second level, and my other hamster Osmium in the bottom level. They have all, sadly, since passed away. I want to turn this once 3 separate leveled cage into a single cage with 3 levels that join together. That was a really clumsy way of explaining that. I could just refilm that whole bit to make it clearer, but I'm not going to do that. This will be, or at least I hope it will be, one of my most simple and straightforward cage upgrade projects. I've already done 2 things off camera. I have removed the doors on each level for easier access, and I have resealed the floors, all the gaps in the floors, with pet-safe aquarium silicone. This stuff. If you can get hold of this particular brand and you want this specific one, it's called Quillosa. Yeah. Ultimately, the brand you use really doesn't matter. What matters is that whatever silicone you're using for sealing your DIY cages, it needs to be one that's intended for use on either fish aquariums or reptile vivariums, anything that involves animals living inside it. That's what you want to go for, because it's going to be pet safe. Moving on to my idea for connecting these 3 levels up so that my future mousey, yes, we will be getting another intact male mouse at some point in the future, so that my future mousey will be able to access all 3 levels. I need to make some kind of doorway in the floors. I wanted this to be as straightforward as possible, so my plan is to simply cut a circular hole in the bottom of the cage, probably in the corner on this front and maybe the opposite corner on the other side, and then silicone seal in a little PVC pipe, which is just big enough for a little mousey to fit through. So this little pipe would be on the inside corner, the mouse would be able to slop through there. Your mouse is slopping through things. Something's not right. The mouse would be able to just pop through there, and then I'm going to be placing a shelf just below where this opens up to, on the second level down there, so of course the mouse doesn't just drop down onto the floor. That would be very unfortunate. And I'll repeat the exact same thing on the second level so that he has access to the bottom level. I've made this upgrade unnecessarily awkward for myself simply by choosing to film it, because I have the tripod pushed really close up to the cage. It's stood on a box so it's tall enough to see over this lip, and I have that box pushed up to the cage so that you can see what's going on, but this top cage is a little too tall for me to get into easily, and I don't have space for my stepping stool to go down here. So it's a little awkward is what it is. So it didn't actually occur to me that this bottom bit of wood may be just a tiny bit too thick for the circle cutter. It is, yeah. So I just need to go get another drill bit and drill right the way through so that then I have a marker for drilling back up the other way. Right, so let's drill through to the bottom. Right, I'm gonna go in from below. There we are, that's the piece of wood I've removed. Lovely. It's very hot, why was I touching that? Now you watch this not fit. Oh, it does, look at that. Oh, it's perfect. That is fantastic. Oh, I'm so happy about that. So you guys don't see how often things go wrong for me and I just cut the footage and then don't include it. It's like, yeah, I'm so great at this stuff. Whoop. As I'm putting the pipe in for tube protection, I'm not even going to bother to sand any of that. There's just no point. It'd be a waste of time. I'm just going to push this in, and the way I'm going to have this in here is it's going to be flush with this bottom level down here, so the tube will just be flush with the ceiling, and then all the excess of the tube will be poking out the top, because this should hopefully stop too much extra substrate going down the tube into the level below. The pipe is doing a pretty good job of holding itself in place, but I am going to use some masking tape just to secure it a little bit more to the bottom so that we can add the silicone. I really don't care about being neat with this because it's going to be covered over with substrate anyway. And quite frankly, security is much more important. Just move it around there. Once the top silicone has dried, I will be making sure to add some to the underside as well so that it's completely secure. Now we just have to repeat that entire thing on this level down here. So that's the simplest way to join the 3 separate cages together to turn them into one 3-leveled cage. It was very straightforward. I mean, there were minor hiccups in there, but straightforward. Now that it's a 3-leveled cage, my intention is to have each one of these levels have their own separate purpose. So this top level originally was just my mouse cage. That was it. Everything that happened for the mouse happened in here. But a big issue, well, not an issue, just a thing that kept coming up with Zinc is that I would have all of his toys in here, of course, but also all of his substrate for burrowing in. And the problem was that he was guaranteed every single day to bury all of his toys underneath the substrate so he could no longer play with them, and I would have to come in the next day and unbury them all, and that would upset him sometimes. So now that I have 3 separate levels, this top one is going to be focused on just the toys. There will be substrate in the bottom, but not as much as there used to be, so the toys cannot get buried under it. They'll still be usable. So this will all be floor toys and hanging toys. This will be the main play space. Then for the second level, my plan is to design and build some kind of wooden jungle gym play area sort of climbing frame thing. I'm not sure just yet where I'm going with that because I need to take the measurements and I need to design it and I need to cut everything out and join it together. So we're just going to make that bit up as we go along. And the very bottom level is going to be dedicated to being the digging area. So it'll just be deep substrate and that'll be pretty much it. Probably a shelf or 2 in there as well. So we'll have a toy floor, a climbing puzzly something going on there floor, and a digging floor, which will hopefully fulfill all of my future mouse's needs when it comes to play and stimulation.
Yes, I'm lost in the fun park now. I can never go around, drove a spiral going down, yeah. I've been racing you all through town. There's no limit to your speed, never ever time to beat, no. We just fired away without a second to ensure what we signed up for. I won't play it this way, no more. You'll be out the door till you're back for more. I know what you're gonna say. I know what you'll do to me. I know I'm not gonna stay. Try to get up, you're dragging me down. Better back off, I'll turn it around. All the once and for all. Boy, you're too late, I'm standing my ground. Finally free and on the rebound. All the once and for all. You've been up underneath my skin. No one's ever gonna win, so we might as well get in now. And still the fights always leave a thrill. I can imagine how I will. You go on, I know the drill now. I've been getting high from this drug for longer than I know. Now it's time to go. I'm not letting you push me around, so should've let you know a long time ago. I know what you're gonna say. I know what you'll do to me. I know I'm not gonna stay. Try to get up, you're dragging me down. Better back off, I'll turn it around. All the ones and for all. All the ones and for all. Boy, you're too late, I'm standing my ground. Finally free and on the rebound. All the ones and for all. All the ones and for all. All the ones and for all. Try to get up, you're dragging me down. Better back off, I'll turn it around. Try to get up, you're dragging me down.
This shelf is the one I intend to put directly beneath the tube on the second level. I've cut the corner out here because I found it's the easiest way to prevent your pets from peeing in the corner of areas you don't want them to pee in, i.e. shelves, which can be more difficult to clean. And I also have a little notch cut out here for a support leg. Nothing too exciting about the support leg, it's just a support leg. It fits in nice and neatly to this notch, and then I will just pop a screw in there to hold it in place. And I'll also be adding some brackets to the underside of this shelf in order to give it some more support. Since this will be the one that will be directly beneath the tube, I want it to be as supported as possible. That's the first shelf fixed into place just below the tube, and no, my next mouse will not have extraordinarily long legs. I am going to be attaching a ramp from the tube down to the shelf so there'll be easy access up and down to there. Moving on to the next shelf, this one's a simple square. Once again, I've removed the corner so there's no peeing in there. I rounded off this corner just to make it look a little prettier, and on the underside, instead of having brackets this time, we have 2 strips of wood which I have screwed into place on both sides, and each of those has a hole in it, because to attach this one I'm going to be using nuts and bolts simply because it's a slightly heavier and slightly bigger shelf. Just below the first shelf I've drilled 2 holes that go all the way through to the outside of the cage, one there and one there, and in my hand I have a long bolt with a washer on the end. We're just going to go to the outside of the cage, and it's a bit fiddly. I'm going to put it through that hole. Here we are. I'll do the one at the back as well. And then I'm going to take my shelf and I'm going to feed the bolts through the holes on the pieces of wood underneath. And then I just have to tighten the nuts onto the bolts, and that'll hold everything in place. Shelf number 2 complete. I'm really happy with how this side is looking so far. Still plenty more to do though, of course. Now this part of the shelf drops into nothingness, so I want to put a little railing there just to make it safer. So I have a strip of wood and we're just going to screw it into place just so there's no slips or accidents. There we go. The door for the second level is now fixed back on, as you can see, doing its doory thing, and we have 3 half-circle shelves. I've already drilled the pilot holes in the back of each shelf, and I've got tiny little screws and tiny little washers which are going to go on this side of the mesh and hold the shelves in place. Shelf number 2, she's going to go just a little higher. There we go. 3 stepping shelves. So here I've started on making a very simple climbing wall. I've got my square of wood, I've drilled holes where I want each of the climbing pegs to be, and the pegs are going to be these little wooden dowels, and all I have to do is hammer them into the holes. These pieces will make up the final shelf for level 2. This is the main part of the shelf. This is the little climbing wall thing that we made that's going to act as one of the legs for the shelf. We also have 2 more legs here that go on the back, and a second level for the shelf to go on top. I'll start by joining the climbing wall to the main shelf. I've already got the pilot holes drilled and countersunk, so it's just a case of screwing the screws in there, which is basically all we've been doing this entire time. There's one bit, and now for these back legs. There we are, nice and sturdy. And with the top shelf, we've cut out a notch here and here where we can just slide these legs into place and then pop the screws to the back, and it'll be done. Hello, nitrogen. Yeah, guys, you can see Nitro in this one. There's my little baby. Come out for a snack. Oh, he's so cute. Hey, cutie. Oh, look at that old chubby face. I love him so much. He's not the most elegant hamster, I'll admit. Distractions aside, the shelf is complete and we can go and shove this into the back corner of level 2. This is just a delightful mess in here. I'm going to have to re-clean all the floors. Ooh, knocking stuff over. Ah! I still have an LED light in this cage, but it doesn't have any batteries on it at the minute. So unfortunately, this is a little dark for this video. There we go. And that's where that's going to live. I've got this staircase which I was going to use for something different originally, but I think I'm actually going to glue it into place here so it will be the access point to and from those shelves. My focus does not like working in low light. Oh dear. It's going to sit just there. I think that'll be nice. Now that both the main shelves are in, I'll be connecting them up by making a balance beam. This is something that Zinc used to be fantastic at doing, and I expect New Mousy will be just as good at balancing across a rod like this. So this is just a simple rod of wood, or a dowel, whatever you want to call it. Both ends are painted white, but I've left the middle blank because you won't be seeing that, since the middle will be wrapped in sisal string. This is what's going to provide the grip for the mouse, since the mouse can't actually grip to this. It's far too soft and smooth, you'd fall right off it. And I have my hot glue gun here, and all I'm going to do is put a little splodge of glue, or not. It doesn't want to work for me, of course it doesn't. There we go, a little splodge of glue, and then this will get us started. Try not to burn myself, although I inevitably will at some point. So I'm just going to put glue around this first spiral. This first spiral of string going round will be secured in place. There we go. Okay, and now that first bit of string is on, we can just keep wrapping the string around and around until the entire dowel is covered in string. Got to make sure the string is nice and tight and that each round of string lines up with the previous one. They're all tucked together, there's no gaps. And if you want to, for extra security, you can, totally optional, put a little blob of glue every couple of inches just to hold those in place so it won't unravel on you, because that would be very frustrating. And we finally reached the end. All I have to do is glue the very last piece of string, just like I did with the first one. Simple, but time consuming. On either end of the dowel, I've screwed in an eye, and I've also screwed in hooks to the two shelves that are already in the cage so we can go and join this together. Oh, this is horrendously messy. While my camera was on charge last night, I made another set of ladders for this shelf over here, so there's access to it from the ground floor. So you've got two access points to this shelf, you've got the climbing wall, you've got the ladder, you've got two access points to this shelf via that step ladder thing and the sisal stick. Then these shelves over here need one more ramp that goes from the ground floor up to this shelf so that the mouse has access to there. And then I think this level will be more or less done, aside from having to clean it. Oh yeah, I don't think I bothered to even mention this. I made this way back when I started this project. It's like those ramps you see on dog shows. I'm not sure what the purpose of it is really going to be for, aside from just being another thing to climb and sit on. But I felt like making it. Another ramp, another hinge. Here we go. Finally moving on to the bottom level. We are so close to finishing these upgrades. So this one, if you remember, is going to be the digging level. It's just going to be filled with substrate and pretty much nothing else. But we do need the ramp coming down from the tunnel, which is up in this corner, and I also need to put a shelf on the back so the mouse has somewhere he can sit outside of the substrate, and also somewhere for the ladder to come down. I keep calling it a ladder, it's a ramp. Somewhere for the ramp to land when it comes down from the tunnel. So this is going to be the shelf. This is the length of the enclosure. In fact, this is made out of a piece of the enclosure. I can't remember which piece, it's one of these back walls. And this should hopefully just slide in here. It's a little bit of a tight fit, but that's good. Just have to get the angle right on it. There we go. And we'll wiggle that to the back. And we'll use this little glass jar to hold it at the height I want it. Okay. And then screws washers. We just screw it into place. Now hopefully, when I remove this, nice and sturdy, lovely. I have created the longest ramp in the world. Okay, not quite the longest, but you know, it's pretty close, I'm sure. This is insanely awkward. And that's that level done. That's all I needed to do there. One shelf, one ramp, done.
Already packing, come with me. I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what